Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Monroe with Museum. We have President G with Harris. We have Hawaii people in here with some interest in climate change and local rep. And we have some of our staff here. We have Bob, our president of our board. Hey, Bob. Green and Maureen back there, and our new employee, Phil, is our new maritime director.
Yay.
Yay. We needed some help with that. So good evening, and thanks for coming. Obviously, climate change for us, we're front and center with the ocean right here. So I think some of the issues we're going to talk about tonight are going to be great. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Delighted to be here tonight with all of you to welcome the Metropolitan our wonderful executive director this evening. Honestly, just for those of you who are just new to the hall, the Metropolitan Beaches Commission was convened in 2006, and I think I got appointed to it as the Hull representative because I was a selectman in 2007. So it's been a long time in the coming and the work that they were doing. At the beginning, it was very basic. The beaches were a mess, stem and stern. It was tough. DCR was really struggling. They had basically this very good budget. They had very few staff, full-time staff, let alone summer staff, and the beaches were a mess. And what ended up happening was we all came together through the leadership of then State Senator Jack Hart, and they convened the Metropolitan Beaches Commission, and they engaged Save the Harbor Stays a Bay as its staff in that first efforts to really go beach by beach to really see what were the issues. And as none of you will be surprised, they were some really common themes, and they were very basic: trash on the beach, things like that, things that were really keeping us from welcoming people and from using the beaches and these treasure chests. And through that long-term effort, I personally got to know way more about DCR. Really, it was a combination of real community around and shared advocacy, because we had shared issues, we were able to share the advocacy. And so instead of all the different beaches fighting for a small piece of the pie, we grew the pie. And from that initial effort has really grown new friends. It's too bad that Jason McCann isn't here, or Jim Petrillo, but new friends groups. It was the shared advocacy, the camaraderie of Beacon Hill to really get in there and to bring DCR as a partner, a true partner to the table. That effort has been ongoing and has really been solidified to the point where we didn't even have to file an amendment. The House budget included the funding for Save the Harbor. And what they did next was really what you would hope, was to really talk about engagement and how we do programming. And I've been very honored that Hull always receives a really good, don't tell them I was probably all in the car, a good fair share of the programming and that engagement. And as it would not surprise anyone in this room, having had that success with that programming and really trying to bring diversity of voice and the region together led very naturally to the next long-term efforts to secure the use of the resources down in Nantucket through an equity lens and true access, whether it be language or disabilities. And then because someone in this room said, what about climate change? They are now segueing to thinking about the sustainability of all of these long-term resources. And that is where you come in. We can't do this by ourselves. I'm just one state rep. They're one advocacy organization. It's really about what the community calls for and how the community engages. And that's why it's so important that you're all here tonight. So I just want to say thank you to the Whole Lake City Museum, who is a very significant for all of their work, for hosting us tonight. Thank you for Save the Harbor for coming all the way down. But everybody has to try. So we do understand what you did, but also for your leadership and your commitment to these resources. And mostly, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being truly good stewards of this wonderful beach that we have here in Nantasket Beach. So without further ado, turning it over to the man of the hour to lead us in our presentation and to our workshops. So, yeah, no, no, Tris, take it away.
And then I realized I'm just not talking points from listening to what they hear. So I was like, okay, that really a lot. And of course, someone that had to say climate change 3 or 4 years ago in our conversations about maintenance and equity. Just perfectly happy to let other people deal with climate change. It's a really big challenge, right? And when it comes to how do we get more trash barrels on the beach, it's a pretty straightforward problem to solve. It may not feel easy in the moment, but you get a little bit more money, so just buy it. Even challenges like breaking down barriers of equity, really big challenges, really big problems, complicated issues. And not that those are smaller issues, but compared to climate change, like at least we have some roadmaps there. We are gradually or quickly getting to the point where we are not sure what to do. And actually, this is the first of these workshops that I'm really nervous to do because we've been to Lynn, Revere, and East Boston so far, and the other communities that we are with commissioners. Beaches Commission are South Boston, Dorchester, Quincy, Lynn, and Winthrop. But this is the first time I'm sitting in front of a community who actually knows what you're talking about when it comes to the waterfront and the beach. You all live the beach. It's inextricable from daily life. And so I'm really hoping and counting on learning a lot here today. And the whole thrust of our workshops here, and as I said in the other 3 that we've done, this is the first step. We know that there's a lot of other people. Leah's going to get into some of the other initiatives that are going on. Certainly there's some we're not going to have listed there. I would argue in front of anybody that probably Hull is further along than pretty much any other community, and both by necessity and also by the type of expertise that you all have down here when it comes to these issues. When we go to East Boston, East Boston's got a lot of other things going on besides little Constitution Beach. And we're saying, let's talk about Constitution Beach. And it does lead to a very interesting conversation, but it's not necessarily forefront in everyone's mind. So they really learn a lot from us. I'm not sure I'm going to be much so, but hopefully either 2 there that maybe we'll give you some ideas. But the way this is going to be structured is we're going to talk for just a little bit, and then we're going to break into 2 groups. Kind of like form our chair in a conversational circle for about 5 to 10 minutes, and we have 2 questions. One question, we're going to break apart. We're going to talk in groups and report back, do a little more presentation, ask the second question, report back, and then just or we all go back to our cozy homes. Although this building is way cozier than here. Oh yeah, so there we go. So we have a few maps that we'll share. Please come in. Please come in. And get anything out of my introduction?
We have a new commissioner from Hull.
That's right. We do have a new commissioner from Hull. Every town has an elected representative and a community representative. Eskimo has been probably my go-to mentor and advocate on the commission. Anytime any of it, she picks up the phone. It starts usually with like a really specific question and then kind of defaults. What am I supposed to do? But yeah, Christian Crawford perfect timing as well, given this type of subject. Speaking about, and he was part of our kickoff of this last July. I don't know if there Zoom conversation with about 112 people or so on a Zoom conversation from all across the coast. Really initiating this conversation, that letting people know we're going to be coming to your town, we're going to be talking to folks, really be. We'll try to figure out some ways we can get to a point where Save the Harbor and the Metropolitan Beaches Commission make recommendations. And we're still figuring out who those recommendations are going to be to, because they might be different in each community. But it's recommendations to the town, or the city, or the state, most likely. We're coming from a point of view that climate change is happening, sea level is rising. Everything all the studies we see, everything out there is like, it's going to happen. So let's move past this idea of how can we stop this, but how can we adapt, we like to say, enhance our relationship to the waterfront in the face of this. And so we'll give you some examples as we go through of things that we've been considering. We're not anything we say here today, please don't take it as, oh my gosh, they're gonna tell them to knock all our houses down. They're gonna build a 50,000-foot seawall and block off the, none of that's happening. We have some dramatic examples just to get the conversation going. By no means are we making any of these recommendations, but just a few of our bona fides. Save the Harbor's been around, we're almost 40 years old. Looking forward to a big celebration in 2 years. And we started out as a voice for clean water and being really a key part of getting the Deer Island sewage treatment plant built. So we have some of the cleanest urban beaches in the country, including Fantastic Beach, which gets an A every year. Congratulations. We don't have the same problems that we do in Lynn, where we just can't even touch the water right now. So it's always nice to get down here. And we switched to connecting people to that waterfront. So obviously the Hull Life Saving Museum, the Hull Chamber of Commerce, and a number of other friends of Fantastic Beach are all key part of that. The free events that you all put on every year, bringing thousands or even millions of people down to the water. It's truly an incredible part of it. And then we have our youth programs. So anyone, again, it's weird to say it at Hull, but if you want to get out of the water, you don't get enough opportunities down here. We do free trips out to the Harbor Islands all summer long. So to SaveTheHarbor.org, you can sign right up and just show up, get on the boat with us. And of course, we talked a little bit about the Metropolitan Beaches Commission. We have copies of our last report, which, as we said, was focused on breaking down barriers with an equity lens along lines of race, language, ability. We're really excited because some of those recommendations are starting to come to fruition, both through the Better Beaches program and our grantees, and through our partnership with DCR, who, the one I'm very excited about, it might seem like a small thing, but they have pledged repeatedly every time I check in, you need it. No, we've got it, all set. We were going to have multilingual signs welcoming people to every one of our state beaches by this summer. So assuming they actually are able to get that done, sometimes those logistics can, like a construction project, it's always a couple. But we are really coming and saying welcome to Fantastic Beach, at least 6 languages. So we're busily at work. And then, yes, we're going to dive right into our breakout question. Before we even start talking to you, we don't want to guide the answers too much, but we want to have you all break into 2 small groups. We want to hear, how do you use the beach? Everyone uses it differently, depending on your interest, depending on your ability, depending on whether you like getting wet or not. So we'd love to just get a sense from the people in this room. You live down here. What's maybe your ideal beach day? What's your favorite thing to do? And once we do that, I will tell you how to start using some. So yeah, I don't want to guide it too much. So do you have a question?
I do.
Yes.
I'm I live in home, and I don't need to interrupt. I applaud what
I
you're
was
doing.
about to ask you.
I'm so grateful and getting DCR's apartment. All your initiatives, it's fantastic. Right now, I'm gonna leave and go to the meeting of the conservation.
Yes, we heard.
Okay, you know all about that?
We heard that, yeah, we heard the conservation. That's like Christian.
Okay, so what we're dealing with, we love the beach, but we're dealing with construction infringing on the beach and the bay. And they're not climate resilient, flood resistant. It's very difficult because it's a private developer.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that Massachusetts might have some regulations that would affect that. I know that they have to apply for state permits. They seem to be muddling through the whole permit process. Anyway, I'm going over to the Conservation Commission. I just wanted you to be aware.
Yeah.
Climate is with us right now,
Yeah.
climate change. And so we're dealing with nuts and bolts. You're gonna build a bunch of things very soon.
Yeah.
And much of the town doesn't know about it, doesn't have a say. And I don't know if your group might have an interest. I would refer you to Mr. Paul Kaplan, who's the chair of, I can talk to you later.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful person. and Joan, you know, all of
Yeah,
it.
well,
You know.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, you come. Thank you, and
I wonder how they're gonna get insured if they're not partners, like, that's really about to get insured.
That is actually. But I will say this, that Christian Crawford is our conservation agent. And he came to us from the state, from coastal zone management. And he is exceptional and he will guide us well. And
That's good.
he knows his stuff, and you can have great faith in the fact that he will, whatever gets built, he will do his best. And the Conservation Commission led by Mr. Pickman is, well, they will do their best to
Yeah.
shape it and
It's a great program.
yeah, it's a great group. We can have good faith in it. So, yeah.
Anyway, thank you, I'm gonna rush out,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Do you want to tell us how you use?
What's your perfect,
Yeah.
how do you use me? Can you go
Well,
there?
the beach, you know, I just go and stand there all winter long and like that, and then I go in the water when it's not. Perfect, they're in the bay, we go.
In the water, on the shore.
But we don't have parking problems, but people coming in and have a difficult time with parking, that's. But I'm okay.
Thank you.
This is great, thank you.
I'm going to.
Oh, no.
I'm doing this,
Yes.
I'm sorry I'm late, but I'd
How
like
do you use?
to quickly tell you how I use the
Yeah,
beach.
yeah,
I use the beach big time. I walk in the winter, when I can, and in the summer, I kayak in the bay area, not on Nantasket. I swim in the bay, I walk barefooted in the ocean at low tide as often as I possibly can, in the summer. And I go in the water, I ride waves, which is my favorite thing. So I do.
Do you ever walk along the boardwalk? When the tide is high, do you ever walk along the boardwalk? there?
Yes, my family does that all the
Yes,
time.
we do.
Yes,
I
yes,
don't.
yes, it's
I never
fantastic.
do.
The other day, a man had rides in carrot. We wow.
And do you ladies go to program? And you learn like the dancing at the Burmy Kings?
No, I don't do that. I'm not doing that.
Or I just.
I mean, I don't because I live this end. So I'm lazy and I don't go out.
Yeah, we're
Anyway, I
really-
stay home.
Okay.
Have a good one. Thank you for sharing.
They will be doing this.
Yes, I do remember, I was, when I first moved here in '86, we, and Bolden had just,
Yes.
had gotten that whole thing with the closing down the outfall pipe. And so we were taking, samples in Quincy
Yeah.
Bay. So it sounded like you're.
You called me on the way down here saying, I'm sorry I can't be there, but
Well,
I'm so worried about Hull, like it could be part of the Boston Harbor Islands before we know it.
And I your passion for this, and he was my superhero.
Senator Golden is still very active in climate change.
Yes,
And
I
yes,
read,
yeah, and he's still here and he still cares deeply about
About
how.
how amazing human being.
Great.
We have a lot to be grateful for.
I, thank you, ladies. Have fun. Go, be good advocates.
We'll see you again.
Okay.
All right, so the rest of us break into groups, if whether you work at the museum or not, you can participate. Stakeholders. So, we'll just take 5 minutes. Just kind of talk about the different things you like to do, and then pick someone to report back. It doesn't have to be 2 groups, it could be 3 or 4 groups, you can do it in pairs. Rick, yeah, I know.
I'm Sally.
Sally.
That's Henry, our second.
Right.
Oh, good, yeah. Parents on call. For me.
All right, how do we use the beach? Justice.
Yeah, it was, oh,
It's
yeah.
Always.
I'm alive and I live
Beer, Constitution, South Boston, 2 years.
I'm Krista, that is it.
Quincy.
I'm not like, I'm Kristen, I'm the operations.
Well, I think even. Second page is help.
And
Both
my family, we have a car gap, 9 car gap.
They're focused on the TCR. So I was just.
But also.
Right. So,
Awesome, who wants to start in the morning, you wanna go?
that no, because it's, no, as you folks know, we're the boathouse now,
Water.
so we run programming there.
My Friday.
Yeah.
But they don't have a broader idea.
My house is a little water.
Their beach trucks.
And it faces Boston.
And what else is in there?
So
So
typical, like,
I'm shocked. Are
things
they
that I
here?
think myself is climate change is.
I don't know.
What happened with the lifesavers.
I would be seeing all.
And it was great in the boat.
Although, but tons of the water.
Work.
I would be.
I had to.
I like
swimming. I didn't do my run from my car because you know, it's small.
And so that she says very sweet.
So I guess my.
And then the other thing that I
Beach day.
love about
This
this
is
is
the
that,
subject.
these
It
are
is,
unfortunate.
I like the beach for
I
mine.
love a program.
So
That's
doesn't matter, you know, if it's.
So if I'm
the
water
summertime,
starting
the
in the
winter
winter, I
time,
live there.
if I'm
all the way
down
down.
stress or anxiety, like my perfect day is to.
Yeah.
So to
Yeah, but I think that's usually important.
It
People
is.
do use those stations. And then I love if they use, not so much but the beans. If they're playing music, I love to watch that. If there's an event in the town, that's a great spot for it. People gather there sometimes, we'll sit out, if you've got nice people to sit there. So I love that. If I'm walking the boardwalk, though, someone's invited me and I'm walking with them, so I love it.
Because I stay away from the boardwalk just myself, because there are so many people.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm there, like, I'll get up in the morning, watch the sun come up, because we live on Spinnaker, and then I'll go down.
Yeah.
And especially if we had a storm, I love to watch, how and have different places.
Yeah.
Sneak in and watch it.
That's right, I do, I saw the part, not in the main part of it, but after the boardwalk, so it ends.
And you can go up,
Towards the
see all of it,
Yeah,
and,
I parked the book, you're right.
and I love, I was a teacher. For a lot of years. And when I look at this, and I taught in Brookline, I took kids out and, you know, working and looking for what's in. Under your rocks, and I do that now with my grandson. And I do it, you know, going out into the bay and going into the ocean. And, you know, just the whole love of the way you're connected to the water. We were whitewater kayakers, so I'm really a mountain girl, and we are a million years, so I live at the beach never, ever, ever. Because I'm blonde and lived in Georgia and we look like a little culture every time you look at it. And it's so different when you live here, and it's cool, and the water's so big, it's outside.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then I'm like, there's so many interesting, you know, kind of things that happen. So I like all of it.
Well, I really like this. I don't live in the house, so coming around the corner, the officers in the ocean every day. It's just it'll take your breath away, just every day is different. Whether it's a giant storm or fog or the sun doesn't. Really cool view. Then as you go along the beach. My wife has a tremendous problem trying to sit out here behind because the road turns. Well, yeah, it takes a lot. But as you drive along, you see different angles, different perspectives. You know, all the way out here and then obviously. I really love that process. Getting that last night.
Yeah, to see that.
That's like work. That's probably the part that I, as far as the beach proper. I one other people forget. One thing that we do every year, is to do the Audubon's Christmas.
Oh,
And so we do this with multiple people from all over the place, but it's a Ryan Hingham that organizes this particular area. So we meet and we'll hopscotch Long Beach, different areas. And, you know, it's always cold and gloomy.
Not everyone has
Yeah,
that.
we all class, so.
That is also an important.
What are the birds that you?
Enough, if we have one.
Yes.
Then.
No, sorry. Yeah.
Maintain.
Rats and rats, so
you
don't get help.
There has to be some.
I didn't even find the house. I think we were on top of you. I see it up there as well. And I, so I enjoyed walking. I like, because I live on water on this end. So I go on water. Yeah, just go over the seawall.
Kind of conversation, one of the
but
other things too, just
go to the beach,
maintenance around, you know,
Every time I
climate
go to the
change
beach,
is
it's like,
happening.
why don't we
things
come
that
here
are
every day?
affected,
So close,
uh,
just come.
policy.
And go to the park, you know.
Access to the water,
Just
you know,
places
ramps
park.
and breaks down,
Walking
crumbles
the
over
beach,
rocks that
low
crumble,
tide
even on the
structure.
beach, I'm on
Because you could just, it's
ocean
just like
side.
amazing.
When that time when
huge
there's a storm, those rocks come
space
across the street,
where
you know, they're in the
nothing
parking
around
lot,
except
so
for
even just
water
like
and sand.
the cleanup and you just being aware of those things, so.
And walking, anything.
I feel
I can remember walking in January barefoot because it was a warm day.
Yeah.
Or of course, every year I go. To Gulf.
Yeah.
The last Saturday in January. So that kind of begins the process. Pretty soon I'll be starting to go at least once a day. But going to the beach and making an effort to go there and then walking along on low tide and then the summertime, warmer in summer, to go into the water, out of the water, into the water, out of the water. It's just such a great. And I think the other thing too, that is kind of like epitome of being in Hull and near the water and fantastic views of great people, you know, the epitome of that. But also, it's the way it makes people feel. And I think the one thing about, I've always said about Hull, that it doesn't matter who you are, what your income is, where you came from, what your ethnic group is, and all that stuff that kind of gets in the way. Most important thing in everyone who's here and stays here is being in Hull and being near the water and being here. That's an equalizer. Everybody has that in the top of it, and nothing else is there. That's what it's- if you don't understand and appreciate it, you probably don't say it.
It's funny because they are, I live on the water,
And,
it's
couple
really
of
great.
programs that you can see in that
Programming.
are really to water and beach, but,
I can watch.
in a kind of a sideways, attack.
You know, last year.
And we meet at the beach on Friday night, Friday evenings in the summer,
Usually.
gathering on the.
Oh, I was like 3 to me, I was like, what? How is
Sunday down and it was just a great gathering place. And another one is a meditation group. And when the weather's perfect, we meet on the beach. And it's just a perfect place to
No, so I think.
get into yourself and get quiet and tranquil. And it's a tool as much as it is, it's visual. It really works well for us. And then in addition to being an avid beachgoer, driving into town every day, as Mike said, you come over the hill, drive in and just. But I always, when the tide is right, I always make sure I drive past through all the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always good.
You gotta watch it. And then I can. Those are great. I intersect.
I think another area that this right here, getting like I enjoy that being, one is I love looking at the ocean with the context of some of the history. I look at big strong hardy ledge, all the ships that are around that. And there's a lot of people going by, may not even know it's around, but it's out a few miles, so. I would But also, one thing that I do is, see a ship, tell you everything about it, right? Its name, country of origin, where it's left, where it's going to, so we're always looking at the container ships coming in.
That's one of the
I
advantages
love
of
that.
being right here.
Marine traffic.
I know you had that same.
Especially when they're coming in on harbors and like, so.
This is-
Well, it'll tell you the type of ship, so you know what to expect. But I sometimes wonder if the police are gonna take notice of my driving, whatever.
I'm not texting, I'm just, researching.
She's looking at the ship, don't worry about me.
You ever gone
I
We'll tell them about her healing,
So
whenever
we
she
have
was stressed. She would like, I'm going out, you know, plan breakfast, and she would go to fantastic beach, all the way to So walking, and I'm a runner, I'm a
I'm
swimmer.
not kidding. When's the last time that?
High school, college.
You can actually see it.
Because that is such sport. And it's supposed to walk around. We had some really fun to get those state archaeology department and explore those ideas. They used to strategize us. They said,
Walking on the beach.
there's so many unidentified
Healing.
as well as all
Going
the
to access is so important.
exact opposite. But
Save my
it
life.
costs
I
$60.
to be able to all day long,
Obviously,
have
we have a
a
road.
really big
But
Sandwiches,
it's a cycle of the
chips,
sand
and just,
coming in on top of the
you know,
rocks.
go in the water, come back,
Sometimes there's-
you know, garlic bread.
Sand gets out of the way, you can see the ship.
And just sort of go in the water, come back out, dry off in the sun, go back in.
We see
It was just all
Yeah.
day.
Yes.
That was what I had. So,
Yes.
You gather them up.
I didn't, but I used to.
But some people did.
Yes.
And
And-
I was at 10% working on water.
Yeah, let's test it.
You're not 10%. Sometimes when it's cold out, it's more. I didn't make our name, my grandmother's name, my grandmother.
When they came in, people were like.
Yeah. All right, folks, 1 minute warning.
So we can't leave out the walk, so we get it out of the water, because it is such a huge part. This area, I mean, they're my alarm, the first life is that for 15. And you know, I mean, he's out there, and you can hear the different, it comes with the different looks of engines. And, you know, if you get up, I mean, I'm not, you know, there's that crazy woman who's gonna. But,
So my brother was out of the day, so I can tell.
And I've never seen
And
it
I'm
all day.
calling myself and I'm like, is that you?
I've never ever seen it
And then
that
like,
way.
flash.
It's so great.
you know, I mean, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm really, I started backing on surfing lessons, a couple years ago, the men's class.
So we
was
was very rich though.
So then, I did really well.
And that's huge.
Doing it, it's really fun. I didn't realize how different these are named. So Melissa was throwing out there, and we was ready, but I really underestimated how. Super excited. Water sports, I mean, I love being on the water. It's so, I'm not, I can swim, I mean, I learned how to swim in the ocean, so that our, you know, so I was able to, my mom taught us to talk to her, our show. But I'm more of a slow, I like to just.
Objective.
And then so we put me in a boat, somehow, Friday, put me on a boat, I did.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Their message out to our every Friday, from 19 minutes in the water.
And then it was also for text a lot of, build it up on surfboards. Wall Street is nice.
I mean, that sounds fun, but I really like fall in the water, just for fun. All the conversation. Awesome. Yoga on the beach.
So, easy to get permits from.
and even just
Better
like
than
beach
how-
walks, you know, so
It's like a restaurant.
It's constant all the
doing
time.
like group
It's
drives
really
or like
cool thing, so.
another person by myself.
It
Having a group or just like a,
would be
walking club or something like that.
All right, folks, I'm gonna gather everyone back up to the front so we can discuss our ideal beach day.
It's like a whole other world. 7 miles away.
You should come visit.
Come on. I know. You're gonna be living here, so.
That's awesome. Yeah, you'll see us.
So just, I was sitting with the front group, but if we just share back, so that we have the notes, and also just want to hear, like I said, I knew I was gonna learn a lot, and I've been to Hull, I've been working at St. Albert. I spend, a lot of time on the beaches, but 12 out of 13 of our beaches are not Hull. And, you start to go, okay, this is the beach, get used to it, but even, just to paraphrase it, something you were just saying, driving here, I've actually never been this far. It's been down by Carousel, by the, so coming out at this time of day and seeing like the sun hitting the hill with the cemetery, and just not even realizing how close Boston Light is to Hull. Like I can see Boston Light from, yeah, but I mean I can see it from my house in Swampscott. I can see Swampscott from here. I had no idea that like you can see it. And just like it's getting a little poetic in my mind. But we say we did our marine mammal safari 3 trips this last weekend. We take people out from Rose Wharf in Boston. We go out to Castle Island, just past it. We go back to the mouth of Charles. We look for the seals that are coming in to feed on the alewives that are coming up the river. We usually see 3 to 12 or so. We saw about a half dozen at the time. But one thing I always remark on when I'm out there and I get on the mic for my 2 minutes, I say, you live in Boston, you're here in the seaport, you're over there in East Boston, you look and go, oh gosh, it's so far. I'm not gonna get over to East Boston. I'm separated by this vast water. But when you're out here on a boat, you realize the water is actually connecting all. And I just had that kind of refreshed aha moment looking out from the lookout tower here, going, oh, I can see all the way to Lynn and Swampscott. I can see Boston. It really does connect us so. Then I get into my whole more robust water transportation kind of vibe. But yeah, it really is remarkable. It's really exciting to hear from folks who are moving that thing. I'll leave it to all of you to sort of say it. I mean, just so we have it. Who wants to start? Does anyone want to volunteer to report back for your group?
We can also take
We have a
individual
note.
responses as well.
Yeah, if anyone leaves, if your reporter leaves.
So I didn't note everything. But the front of the group, talked about walking on the sand, walking on the boardwalk year round. Glad for the comfort stations. There's intrepid swimmers, which I don't go in. But the vista, really driving in and having the first thing you see and stopping to see whether it's the surfers or just the beautiful vista or the sunrise or the moonrise. Let me forget that early. We talked a lot about the events, Wellspring, and really being able to do programming on the beach, and using that both the MGM bathhouse and as well as the bandstand, the British Pavilion. And that also is year round. I was just there for Pam's and Panda's Advocacy Group Day. And we talked a little bit about the common connections. Rick, I'll let you say that because you said it really much more eloquently than I'm going to repeat. If you want to talk about how you see it as a uniting community.
Yeah, I've lived here a little more than 20 years, and the one thing I found about Hull is that people are really connected to one another because of where we live. Everything else, every other thing that people will think about, how much money they make, or what kind of job they have, or what's their background, all that kind of stuff that sometimes there are cliques in other towns about who's people in different groups and not allowed in other groups. It's sort of subtle thing behind the scenes, but here, because it's the most important thing for everybody here is where we live and the beach and being close to the ocean and being surrounded by it. We are surrounded by it all the time. And you embrace that. And that's the, I don't say 100%, but it's really close to that. That's what people think about all the time. And it connects me with you and you and you and everyone here and everyone in the town. There's really that draws people together. And the beach is sort of the epitome of that. And that Tasket Beach, besides, I mean, I live over here on the seawall. I could go over the seawall and go on for a swim, but to go to the beach, why don't I come here every day? Because it's such a wonderful beach to be on. Where else can you see this 2 miles or more length of beach that you can walk in? There's nothing that interferes with you in doing that. So it's that connection that I think everybody feels.
And I think, Mike, you should talk a little bit about, you were talking about the historical activity piece and, but also, with the intersection of the built environment with the natural environment and your work with Audubon. I just thought you should.
Yeah, so one particular day we go out. A worldwide assessment of the bird population, not to count every bird, but we have a group and we hopscotch along the beach, different locations. And we have 2 bird experts. I'm seeing little black dots in the distance and they're calling out exactly what it is and counting them. And it's a really fun day. We work all the way down the beach and we end up at Hull at sunset. And really a different perspective because the middle of the winter, there's hardly anybody out. In fact, we keep getting people, what are you guys doing? Us sitting there with the binoculars on the beach, looking at. But the other thing is, especially with being a maritime history museum, you're driving down the beach, you're thinking about all the different things that went on and do go on out there that the casual observer may not be thinking about. It's a particular set of rocks, Harding Ledge, which several ships sank on. And when it's stormy, especially, you'll see these big breakers coming over it. It's about halfway down the beach. But there's also ships that are out there now. There's a marine app called Marine Traffic. You can click on it and you can tell where the ship came from, where it's going to, who owns it, how fast it's going. So it's really kind of cool to just watch what's going on in real time.
And then we gave a nod to our commercial fishing fleet. And to just to think of how we come together. I think I got it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
How about our other Rich? It can't be a single harbor staff. I hear them talk all the time.
Okay, so some of the things that we talked about, expand a little bit, is that we all seem to enjoy the walking on the beach for mental health, and it doesn't really matter the time of year. I enjoy it the most when it's stormy, and you're just, reflecting as you're walking on the beach, and, we talked about beach access and, the development and things, and we're hoping that, with the development that's happening, even just by XYZ Street, you guys were talking about, you're hoping that, the parking isn't gonna change because you have to drive to go to the beach. But a lot of it, Bob was talking about, staying on boats. He's got a couple lobster pots. He only got 3 last year. He usually got 30.
Yeah.
I'm on one of the things that we do at the museum, on July 20th this year, and thanks to Better Beaches and Taking Out Today Today, we have the illumination. The beach side is on the harbor side. Everybody thinks we think of Halloween at the beach, but for us, and specifically, people that are working at the museum, we line the harbor with over 1,000 flares, and we celebrate, remember, and honor our lifesavers or people that are special in our lives. And while the flares are going off, we have a rowboat that's rowed through the harbor, and thousands of people come out, and we have lots of volunteers, but it's a community. Everybody does their parties around this. So it is a very special day for us.
The mobile was playing music.
Yeah, bagpipe. Exactly.
I don't really mind some of these.
Exactly, you know, our programs, yeah, we have summer adventure and summer explorer program and, you know, part of, you know, what we try to do is to teach the kids and young adults, to be good stewards to the environment and to the beaches and beach cleanup and, there's a variety of topics that we do each week. But if we can teach our future generations to take care of this natural environment, then we're doing a good job. But we love the harbor side too, not just Nantasket Beach.
It's only 1,000 players you need on your feet, you know, so it's a community. Everybody's in this house, people actually come. It's
Joey, you were saying that,
spectacular night.
yeah. You enjoy any type of water sports.
Yeah, I'm like, I got into surfing. I was a natural at it. And I was very good at it, my first try. And, you know, I didn't expect it to be that hard. The board was heavy, that pop up, and yoga really helps. They just like, you're form. I was like, it's that, you know, when you pop up that cobra kind of.
Right, yeah.
So it was a thing, yeah. Water sports and being on the beach all day, eating, getting in the water, all day. Anything else? Did you miss anything?
Yeah, food. Spend some time in the afternoon cooking and eating.
Well, one thing that's unequivocal for the first time in these workshops is that the beach is essential and important to the community. So I already know we won't be recommending, you know, a 20-foot seawall to just protect all the buildings. That's great. Thank you all so much for taking the time to do that. So, Aaliyah, do you want to? This is your part of the.
Yeah,
Walk through what we have.
yes, so, I mean, as Chris has mentioned earlier, I think that a lot of you guys are already pretty aware and pretty connected in with what's happening with the fall. So I'm not gonna go too in depth because you guys are more likely the expert than I am. But what we have here is actually from the town of Hall's website, and so this is just basically the floodplain and, you know, possible flooding locations that can happen during king tides and also during severe storms and flooding events like that. So as you can see, in this area right here, and this is all of Hull, basically. We got the very tiny part that's on the mainland over here that is not experiencing as much of a flood risk. But a lot of Hull, all of Hull, basically, I would say, is at risk of flooding, so.
So the white parts, just so you know, are mostly hills.
Yes, so these are all not part of the floodplains and everything else. And
Future Boston Harbor Islands.
Green Hill, Atlantic Hill, Strawberry Hill, Allison Hill, Hull Hill, Telegraph Hill.
Oh,
And then it's all this sort of the thinner part out by the high school. That's World's End, across from World's End is, what is it? Sunset Point, and then, Rockaway.
And Spinnaker, wow.
Spinnaker.
very top.
Very top.
Do they make you learn that when you get elected?
22.8 square miles, 28 miles of coast.
Yeah. Wow. Oh.
And some texts stick with you.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
Again, not as much of an expert as some of the folks here, but the Resilient Coast Initiative is a statewide initiative that was recently released by the Huey Driscoll administration. Basically just focusing along the entire coast of Massachusetts, so not just Nantasket and Hull, and like from that area. Oh yeah, Nantasket, Hull, and from Nahant to Nantasket, but the entire coastline of Massachusetts, because the entire western side.
Eastern.
Yes. Massachusetts. Thank you. So yeah, so it'll basically be just something of talking about what we can do to improve climate resiliency along eastern Massachusetts, and it'll be led in part by the coastal zone management department. So I'm not going to go too in depth here because this is something that is still pretty new. It came out very recently. But one of the things that Save the Harbor and the Metropolitan Beaches Commission is doing is we're going to be like working with them to try to get this information from these workshops over to the people of the state so that they can also have some community knowledge about what people want and what their concerns are and such like that. So that's what these workshops are also helping with. And yeah, so a lot of this stuff I'm sure you guys are already aware of because you guys are very locked in on this stuff. But yeah, so we have the whole hazard mitigation plan, and there's actually draft updates as of April 18th, which was last week, and the comment period for that is closed, sadly. But yeah, so there's updates for this, and the aim is basically to identify actions that can be taken to reduce dangers to life and property from natural hazard events. And so the big one right now is flooding concerns for Hull and for a lot of the coast here. So that is something that is a big focus in this specific hazard mitigation plan, and you can find the draft update to this on the Town of Hull website. And what you can also find is the Coastal Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment and Adaptation Study from 2016, which is basically a study that identifies flooding as a major concern and climate change as a major concern for Hull in the coming years. And if you guys want to look at, I'm sure some of you already know, but there's the Preparing for Climate Change storyboard, which was created by the Town of Hull to basically focus on how are there ways to address climate change. So examples being retreat and adapting and accommodating for changes in the climate, which include flooding and possibly raising buildings up. And then there's possible solutions, of preparing to have sand dunes and for grass, dune grasses to be placed so that it can help prevent more extreme flooding. So yeah, but I'm not going to go too in depth about this stuff. If you have any questions, I can also send over the information afterwards because I have all the links set up. So yeah. And yeah, so these are some of the solutions that Chris was talking about at the beginning of this presentation. So some of the more extreme ones include major seawalls. We have some very crazy photos in Japan of some 50-foot high seawalls that are being created to help prevent tsunamis. Hopefully that is never going to be a solution here in Hull. I don't think it would be very beneficial for the community. So we have seawalls, we also have cobble berms, and then we also have property buyback programs, which was another big solution that was presented for folks, especially in the Hull adaptation plan. So yeah, does anyone have any questions about this? I can also go a bit more in depth.
Has anyone ever actually gotten DCR to do one of the property buyback?
So that is one of the more controversial and more, I would say, fringe solutions that have been brought up. So it's been brought up a lot of times for aftermaths of hurricanes, and so aftermaths of major storms. And so there was one here in Hull, and there were, I think, some specific buybacks of a certain area, which name, whose location I don't remember, but that was to prevent just continued flooding and continued flood insurance issues. Yes, Gun Rock Beach. Yeah, so, but it is not a very common solution, and it's something that really involves like a connection and understanding with the community and understanding that there are just like major concerns with building in specific space. But yeah, so some examples of where this has been happening so far, I actually have some pictures. So it's in Oakwood Beach, Staten Island, and then also Imperial Beach in California. And so this picture all the way on the right is actually of Staten Island. And so this was after the Hurricane Sandy event. And so what was happening is all of this flooding here actually. So all of this flooding, the water is coming in from overhead, causing major flooding and damage to all of these houses. And so you can kind of see right here, there's all these houses and there's none over here. There's a couple holdouts right here, but basically there's major flooding damage. And even with concerns of, trying to raise the building on stilts and kind of like to prevent basement use and stuff like that. Just like there was too much damage and it was continued damage that was happening even after the storm. And so basically New York State, the federal government, FEMA, they've all decided that the best solution here would just to do a property buyback program and just kind of give this land back to nature And so they can also act as a barrier for the inner parts of Staten Island that experience flooding as well. So they're not all developed, and this can kind of go back to the marshes and to the like dunes and areas like that to act as a barrier.
The pro side of this is what Aaliyah just said. It's a rewilding of the area. You could create sort of existing nature-based solutions. The downside, specifically in Staten Island, was they did this. They had to do this in kind of an emergency mode. So lots of people got displaced. Very few people were very happy about this.
Yeah.
So while you do have this kind of glasses half full kind of outcome, it was not achieved in a very glasses half full method. The contrast to that is the town of Imperial Beach, California, which, as you can tell by its name, is really all about its beach. And they made an intentional decision as a community that, well, if we don't have the beach, if sea level rises and we have to build a seawall and protect the boardwalk and protect businesses, we're no longer a town. We don't see a future for this town. So beginning 5 or so years ago, they began the property buyback program to not displace anyone, to wait until properties came on the market, so that a century from now, they will still be Imperial Beach. They can gradually move. People are using the term managed retreat right now, which personally I don't think is the best branding for a solution, especially in America. We don't like to retreat, right? So intentional rewilding, I think. So those are some of the kind of things we like to put out there before we ask our next questions, which that's the next slide. Wow, I know this. Yeah, go back one.
Just a couple slides back. You referenced the study that was done in 2016.
Yes.
And then it was updated on April 18th of 2024. How do we access that?
So I can send it to you. I will send it to everyone who's registered here and anyone who's signed in. But I can also just give you my card and I can send this over. But it is on the Town of Hull website.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
It's a little bit harder to navigate and find some of this stuff. So I'm open to making sure you have the correct thing. Joy.
Thank you.
I have a question about the one of the solutions.
Yes.
The cobble berms. And just looking at the picture, it looked like just like with all those rocks to act like in the way to like accessing the water. So I was wondering if you can just elaborate on how that solution is also like promoting access to the water, or if the way it looks like, I can't see someone in a wheelchair like going over all those rocks to get up to the shore and stick their toe in.
Yeah.
So, just if you can explain more the cobble berms and the benefit of them in terms of high resiliency and access to the water.
Yeah, I mean, a big part is, maintaining access and understanding that, while there are these solutions and putting, huge rocks and cobble berms and putting, grassy dunes and such like that, those are solutions for preventing flooding from coming in as much. You do also have to understand that some of these are going to be kind of in the opposite direction of improving ADA access and stuff like that. And so, because for ADA access, you want to have concrete, you want to have ramps, you want to have that type of stuff, and that is not as easily accessible if you're building a cobble berm. But you can also, what you can do is, have these cobble berms in specific areas and then also provide access. Have the cobble berm be in like 2 sections and then have a ramp or access like that. So it's not going to be an end-all solution for access, but it is something that, as we're continuing with these solutions, we have to continue mentioning in these meetings and stuff like that, so people understand that we do want to make sure we have access in the middle of the cobble berm to reach the beach and to reach the waterfront. So.
I like to think of the cobble berm sometimes as like one of the Goldilocks solutions, right? It's not quite this much, it's not quite this much, it does a little of everything. If you build a seawall, you're going to stop the water cold, but that seawall is going to erode over time. If you do beach replenishment, we all read the story, or many of us in Salisbury, where they spent $600,000 private dollars and it disappeared literally overnight with the next storm. The cobble berms kind of walk that line. They help stabilize the beach, and the erosion, they move. You have the larger particles that they move with the waves. And so you can have a beach on one side stabilizing dunes or something on the other side. But Joy, despite all the talk we do about ADA access, and the fact that Save the Harbor actually we will be receiving an honor for our ADA accessibility work through the MVC this Thursday. That hadn't really occurred to me, but my first thought is just it's going to push us to think of new ADA solutions. Is it some sort of like drawbridge kind of thing that lowers during the day and then lifts up so that they can move, or as Aaliyah said, are there little gateways in the berms or things like that? There's not a one size fits all. So, but I think there's a lot in nature-based solutions that can inform kind of the direction we want to go, though maybe not exclusively, right? Because we do live in dense urban areas.
If you know, one good example, if you want to take a look at it. So DCR struggled with it a little bit, but the town of Hull actually, when they were doing their doing grass plantings, part of the whole sort of scheme of it was understanding wind, tide, whatever surges. And so if you look at the whole length of the private beach, where we've built up the dunes, we've limited how you cross the dunes, and because it's flood mitigation and storm protection, there's an angle to it, right? So that made it impossible for if you have a cane or kid, struggles, right? Because to be effective, like that's what they had to do. So the town actually identified a space at A Street. Just have to be A Street and Beach Ave, and you might take a look at it in the light. And what they did is they built an actual handicap accessible spot, and you can get wheelchairs special for the beach down at the fire station, which is right there. And so they actually designated a spot where and parking to go with it, and different things, and the mats and everything like that, just to make sure. And then it closes off because of flooding in wintertime, but they open it up every year. And it's a great example of using the space that's available to you on how to do it. And for DCR, they're struggling with this a little bit because in Nantasket, they had to put in, if you look at the seawall, it's just big boulders, and that's to break up the wave action, to mitigate some of the scouring and things like that, so the beach stays. But then DCR has ramps down onto the beach, and they actually, part of their work program is to clear them every year to make sure that at least one is always cleared for handicap accessibility, and that's part of their work plan. The challenge is that it's actually steeper than now the regulations all say it should be, but that's part of their larger plan too, is the next time we do work on that scene, that'll be something that they can kind of look into. So it's kind of like, there's some good examples of it. If Metro Beach just wanted to take a look at that in particular, and what opportunities involve, because it's very intentional in how we get people on the beach.
So you want to see something exciting? Google wheelchair accessibility on Greek beaches. Last year, the country of Greece literally installed, I think it was like 200 automated wheelchair monorails. So you could go to the beach, you get in this, and it can take you all the way into the water, and then you float around, you get back on. 200 on all their beaches. Like talk about prioritizing your beaches at the building. Oh yeah, no, I know. Mediterranean Sea's got a different vibe. All right, so we're gonna do our last breakout. And this is like the question, it's a little tougher to phrase, but basically we wanna, now that we've talked about our perfect beach day, we've talked through like some of the look at the map, seeing where we know where the flooding is gonna be. We wanna think long-term. The coast is gonna change. What do you feel has to be prioritized above anything else at all costs? I am tempted to go, I've always to like get into more detail and explain that question more, but I tend to just like overcomplicate it. So I'm just going to kind of leave it there. What, and thinking 10 years, but also 100 years from now. You live here now, you know this place. What must be prioritized as this coast changes? All right.
I was wondering what's gonna happen.
Storage system? Yeah, well, they're doing some major work on it.
But I mean, like 10 years ago.
Well, I guess it depends on how many more people
In
you
terms
actually
of
fit in the town.
Okay, yes.
You know, I think capacity wise, it's okay now.
I mean,
That's all.
And I have to say, it's pretty well run from the being neighbors.
it's,
I mean, you get a little bit of an odor once in a while, but it's really,
what I want.
yeah,
There we go, and drive by.
you get a little bit.
Right, often, that is, and has been in the past, is that we also accept waste, it's a, sewer plant. Not, but, those who are commission, you do accept, when people have their septic, pumped out by a company, and they put it into a tank, what do they do with them after?
Yes.
So they can bring it here, put it into our sewage system, so they pay to do that. And sometimes when that transfer occurs, that's when I know we're living here for.
actually, back in the nineties, it was
I see a lot of.
really bad. And early 2000s, you didn't smell sewage, you smelled chemicals. And it was,
Yeah, then there's several steps along the way toward it is released. Were they? Released as put in out. Out to the ocean, and that's where they always recently now project to use it small final product. The section and they're basically semi purified. Process so, right, and the capacity, as you mentioned, the capacity is where, right now, the amount that goes in is way under the capacity of the plant. So so we can handle a lot more waste than, so it will last, should last, should have been how long, because again, how many more people come in, housing, the society population I see going down the beach. There are certain.
You know, along the line, just saying about storage from septic. I didn't realize this, but they're also, I believe, obligated to accept. garbage from
Yeah.
the camp. So if you are camping over in Winthrop, you somewhere done. And I found that out because across the street, sometimes being a little lazy, they just open the sewer cover in front of her house and dump it like off her front porch. They're supposed to go in the plant and so, but anyway, so that's the first time I became aware of taking other waste from other sources.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
She said that that there's, she doesn't mind them accepting it because it's gonna go somewhere, but not literally 10 feet from her front porch. Yeah, one thing I think is, it should be addressed, I don't know if it really will be properly, but, the biggest challenge with the beach that I can see using it is traffic. And so we got all these ugly yellow signs saying go to the park without getting $100 fines. But we have a bus service that goes to town.
Yeah.
It doesn't even go to the train. I mean, that's insane. You have an empty parking lot. If there's 10, it's like a 700 car parking lot. And if there's 10 cars on a Saturday, the Coastion train station.
Fantastic junction.
Yes, I know.
It's probably, what, 2 miles from the beginning of the beach? And so the bus goes up into Hingham. It doesn't really connect, it drops people out in Hingham Center. So it seems to me that's a completely untapped resource to allow people to get some access without parking in people's backyards and causing problems. Because the people are coming anyway, it's just how miserably gonna make it for them and for the people trying to drive, the residents driving.
I know
They were charging $20 to park, parking ticket.
Yeah.
So what? $100 makes you look.
Yeah.
I think, and with the, lane reductions that is planned, 28, traffic is going to be worse. So maybe that will force people to use their Tasket Junction for public transportation to lessen the impact.
I remember that being private property,
But, well,
that parking lot, even though it was adjacent to the train, I don't think the state own the property?
No, they do.
They do.
Yeah, they weren't charging.
And as Joe was mentioning earlier, as we always identify transportation and health is a big, the coordination between boats and the buses is a nightmare.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we have to get. So, that would be-
So with the equipment they have, and with
Yeah.
minor modifications to the scheduling and the way they actually run, you could have people from Boston. Somebody will call me up and say, I'd like to come down, visit the museum and go to the beach. And I take the boat down, I'll say, you can take the boat down, but you're liable to get stuck somewhere for 2 hours. Because the boat doesn't always meet up with the bus. The bus is not marked. It's just a white bus. And there are no stops. So if they don't see you flag them down, now they're gonna go all the way to Hingham back, so you got an hour to wait. So I, can try and desperately get people to come to the museum, but I can't recommend it. I ran into a young lady, down at, there's a little snack shop next to the boat, and she was asking, she showed up at like 4 o'clock. So I want to go down and walk the beach. And I'm like, you can't do it. You can't do it. There's one boat that leaves in an hour. You're not gonna get the bus and get to the beach and be able to walk the beach and get back here. You just, she went anyway. For all I know, she's still down the beach. But it's too bad that we have these, with the public transportation connections, but they don't work.
Yeah, that
Or
was,
have some transportation, so you can be stuck in the beach.
Yeah.
And get them.
Realizing that they're,
And that's a complicated schedule.
They're-
Even with us who, like, we didn't know it.
Yeah.
When I was looking at the question, I'm trying to visualize as we adapt to a changing coast.
yeah.
Kind of fit that in mind. Being like really with Geez. And imagine sea level rising, so the tides have come in further,
Yeah.
coming in. So as I think of the beach and the sands, what's gonna happen? Is it gonna be, my first picture is it's gonna be smaller space.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tide's gonna be high, the water's generally in the higher, so the space. Sort of like what's happening now, State Beach,
Mm-hmm.
that's, state reservation, part of the beach, where at high tide, there is no space.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that same thing is gonna happen further and further down the beach. because the sea level rises. That's gonna happen. So I'm trying to understand.
Safe in their homes and, still.
I don't know what the answer is, I don't know what to make it a priority, but a priority to say, how are we going to adapt to less space on the sand part of the beach?
Yeah.
How can we adapt,
the place
make
you
it,
got, but
make it
there
more
is, I mean, even across. the
Yeah,
street
I mean, I feel like
from
that is a priority, because part of it is, one part is you're using the sand for recreational, people are coming, they're walking, they're sitting, they're swimming. But then also as just like a climate resiliency tool, the sand is acting as a bit of a buffer between straight water and then, the properties and the stream and all of that. So that is something where I would put it as a priority, where it's like, that's something you need to address. And, whether or not that is, like, one of the solutions is sand restoration, what they were doing in Salisbury, where they were, replacing the sand that was getting washed out. Is that something where, as a community and as residents, as people who use the beach, do you think that's something that is going to be needed? Do you think that's a priority, is to replace the sand? Or do you think that if the sand, was turned a bit into like sandy dunes with grasses that were keeping sand from washing away, like as a retention source, is that something, So it's like, I do think it's a priority, and it's like, in these workshops, I want to know, like, what do you, like, for you, would you want to have, a bunch of cobble berms preventing sand loss, or would you prefer a dune, or would you prefer that we pay a bunch of money to replace the sand? Like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think sort of the same line of thinking. But
Yeah.
sort of the beach, this end of the
Mhm.
town, this recent storm, we had rainstorm. The high tide was only 9 feet, very high tide.
Mhm.
And yet, the water was pouring over the seawall.
Yeah.
Where I am down,
You know exactly what
it's
to
just
do.
filling up
And.
the wetlands behind Ocean Ave.
Mhm.
Main Street.
Mhm.
And forcing, and luckily they were, putting in pumps, pump water back in, you know, back in. the ocean. That's
So it's like,
occurring on a regular
not gonna-
basis.
Mhm,
Used to be
mhm.
Once in a while, bad nor'easter comes.
There has to be
and it
some
comes over the sea.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
it's like every nor'easter
Yeah,
comes,
it's give and
the
take,
water-
it's like, but I guess.
Yeah.
So here, the way it closes
What you
off
really
this,
thinking about?
this
Right.
branch here.
It's
And
like-
you have school buses going
Aspect
through
of
there.
the-
And,
Bring a plow and not a
that
plow
they
snow.
every-
Plow the gravel.
yes.
So,
And so, you know, we're gonna be.
coming to a meeting like this and sharing what you know, sharing.
Yeah.
what you know, you know, and-
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't.
You know, one thing I think is a challenge is that
Things like,
historically,
And things like
society
that,
has tried to
questions,
engineer
and
the
so there's just like a lot of.
it usually gets wrong. You know, let's drain the other place.
Harder, and we talk
Didn't
about
work.
having, the
so-
next generation.
And people, build jetties as well, and so they sometimes cause more problems with the dynamics of the house and everything that they solve. So,
Hiring them to be.
If you look at this feature and
Younger communities
what
and,
would
you know,
work,
to spread that, education.
and I don't know the answer, but I don't think, I don't think we know the answer. If you put jetties out there, would that help? Probably not, because I think most places they don't work.
It depends on boat trips too.
The
So
cobble
all
thing, I think is a good idea.
Mhm, yeah.
And so, I mean, that's to investigate it. And one thing I see, one dynamic I see is that, some of the fishing boats are bottom dragged. And without blaming anybody in particular, one boat that's dragging out there every day. And so is that just working up the silt and the current drives it away?
But I am told every time I call that they are licensed to receive that.
If they're what?
And they've been doing it for all years.
And I,
One vote.
All the time.
and I get that, but is that something, if you're gonna look at something to address?
Yeah,
And I don't know if that, how much, it seems like it would be hurt.
It's a question I've asked you.
But
Yeah.
I made to you, we, how to manage the Saturday beach from our experience.
Mhm.
40 years ago, you know, they planted all grass for
Yeah,
prevention and
yeah.
everything. And the, you know, it wasn't explained to us what was gonna occur, but then you see how effective and how incredible that is, and how beautiful that is
Mhm.
over time. And then, as you mentioned earlier, the access that they put in A Street, genius. And again, when people saw that structure going up, everybody was up in arms.
Yeah.
But the functionality of that. To you completely.
Mhm.
You know, the whole piece, I don't know what else. Also, 17, like, you know, that would work around it, but those grass dunes are fabulous, and they seem to be very effective.
How actually is, the DCR portion of the beach is actually permitted for beach nourishment. And for cobble in particular. We were trying to, access and avail ourselves of, beneficial dredge reuse, up in the Scout River. It was like a perfect match, but it was just too far, and so it was actually not, financially viable, like even close. So, yeah, so, but we are permitted, DCR is permitted to do that. So.
Like you see it. That's right, that dramatically over, you know, another 40 years, or you said 100 years out. You know, like I just couldn't imagine like the cobblestone in place, but I guess if you put it in, you know, in tandem.
Well, what it does is you put down the cobble and then, what happens is the beach becomes frosted, so all the sand that's on the top, will come back and cover it. That's what it is. But if you dig down, you find cobble below. But DCR actually, so Hull has a beach management plan, and DCR has the same, theirs is a slightly different version of the beach management plan that's actually permitted through our conservation, commission and monitored regularly, and then, they actually monitor the height of the beach against the seawall, so, to see if they need to take any emergency action. So, but you know, like if you go to Wollaston, it's all smooth because they don't have the open ocean wave action like we do. So our boulders are sort of broken up, and the whole point is to break up to stabilize on both sides of the wall, right, because it's a straight wall. And then, so there's the parking lot that stabilizes on one side, and then the boulders on the other, and it's supposed to break up the water of the action, so you don't get the scouring. And that's why you start to see now, because when we were kids, right, that water never came up to the wall, that's scouring.
Your point too, we kids and we saw
Yeah.
putting the seedlings in, these little tiny plants, we're like, how's that gonna stop the ocean? And look what it's done over time.
Yeah.
It's
Amazing.
so easy.
They're just these little twigs sticking up, and we're like, yeah. Good luck with that.
15 feet.
Issue. Yeah, so, you know.
They're all broke off.
To the point where we're even a hospitable environment for floaters, of which we are proud and not.
So unusual.
That's so unusual.
So they won't be planting this year because of.
No, I think they're not. I don't know why they're planning because I don't think they felt like.
They thought that what they had was given a year. Yes. Where they.
Yeah, I think they just wanted a test year to see how it filled in and where they could focus.
All right, hey folks, so I'm gonna gather folks back up to the front, so that we have enough time to discuss and to finish up of this workshop. So does the first group, do you guys want to discuss and speak out?
Put the back group on the spot, because
All
they're
right.
first.
All right, I'm coming to you guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, do we have someone who would like to act as the speaker of?
More. So I guess the major thing we all agreed on was, protecting it from erosion. And we know that there's not, you're gonna have to give up something to do that. When Joy was talking about the cobble berms, so you have access for ADA compliance. If we do the dunes, Henry was saying, you know, possibly do higher dunes. This year we didn't get to do seagrass because of the plovers. So we feel like everybody wants to do something, but there's no one answer that is going to fit everybody and make everybody happy. The one thing we did agree on is education. And Christine, right? Kristen and I exchanged numbers because she does the kids programming for Save the Harbor, Save the Bay. We have 2 programs, Summer Adventure, Summer Explorer. We're going to share best practices because it's just so important. We have to start educating for our future generations. We have to start now. And if we have 20 kids coming in, 24 kids coming in, that's our opportunity to do something from the museum's perspective. So education and just realizing that there's no one answer for everything that's going to please everybody, but we have to do something about erosion.
That's us.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm dropping the mic.
Strong. All right. Group B. Group 2, Group A, Group 1. That's what it is. Okay, group
Would
one.
anyone like to have the mic?
I missed the.
Mike,
But right-
Mike.
One thing I was thinking about is that over the years, we've tried to engineer nature and been unsuccessful a lot of times. And so I'm not sure we understand enough about how the dynamics of the ocean currents and waves really work. People put out jetties and you got a giant blow up on one side and scarring away on the other side. And all these other ideas are great. I think we need to figure out which ones work before we implement. You bring up the example of Salisbury thing where they put a whole bunch of sand on the beach, but if there wasn't something more thoughtful about how you keep it there, you're just fighting the tide there. So I think there needs to be a better understanding of how the dynamic works. I mean, the cobble seems like a good idea. And I think there's probably ways you can do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be at the seawall. It could be out a little bit, and I think that might promote sand buildup on the shore side of it, but I don't know that. And we need to figure that out. So maybe there's some small test cases that can be done, but or maybe even just trying to collect as much actual study information that's been done here worldwide, so we can see some examples that might be similar where it did work.
And like we said before, it's not a one size fits all, right?
Right.
We throughout this process, we've been saying, we want to keep getting more information probably from the folks at Hull than we're given, like sharing that information back. Boston and Hull have the most information about this. Revere, Lynn, and others, haven't really thought about it as much. So that's the great thing about the commission. You have this group that can share, it's collegial, and can share that information across those or those geologic boundaries.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this isn't happening right this second, but as you all are leaving today, we have one final statement collection. Everyone will get 5 little dots, little stickers, and we have to have a sticker activity. It's part of our code of policy at Save Rockland. And there's a poster board out there with some of the things that people like about the beaches, most of which we heard today. If there's something you feel really strongly about that's not on there, there is an other category, and so you can put a post-it up there with that on it. So you get 5 stickers. You can use it however you want. You put all 5 on swimming. If you I only care about is swimming. Or you can put one on 5 different things. You can weight your answers. We're doing this all over. Again, we have all this sort of qualitative data stuff, but this is a way for us to kind of have a quantitative version so we can cross-reference this type of thing. So you'll see that out there. Please take your sticker, make sure you get them up before you go. And the last thing I'll ask right now is, who isn't here? Who's going to make it today that we should talk to? And where should we go? I didn't think Jason. We didn't Jason. Friends of Fantastic. Like I said, this is our first, kind of salad here. And I was explaining to our wonderful rep outside that we know we have to meet people where they are. So we're going to be hosting Zooms. We'll be doing phone calls. We're going to go. Who did we go and see? We saw the in East Boston the housing. Anyway, we'll show up again if we know that the artist group is meeting on the second Thursday of the month. We're coming down the second Thursday. If we can take 20 minutes of your meeting to go through this and get feedback from you. We're trying to talk to 1,000 people, and we're at about 100. So, yeah. Yes. So just right now, who we heard Friends of Nantasket Beach. Who else?
Friends of the Carousel. Who else?
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. Just trying to, I mean, probably the hotel, right?
Yeah.
Boy Scout or Girl Scout troops.
I think some of the small businesses,
Oh, the
like
Marines.
Bread Basket, and what's the breakfast place I like to go?
Toast.
Toast down there, like been there for a while.
Can we put like a survey in Toast? People could just do stickers on their way out.
You have to do a toast and a bread basket.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Gardenville, they did so much with.
Oh.
This is beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with your scheduling, make sure check holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's best.
Yeah, we missed that.
Oh, I celebrate.
We were counting on you.
Celebrated over the weekend. I'm just trying to think of like how we get beyond Hull to more regional. How we get to other parts like people, because just hang across and such a while. I mean, those are people that all come down here. Braintree, Rockland.
What do you think about it? Many people think go in and test the beach.
Oh, yeah.
There.
So ham groups, how about fishermen?
I think,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Sure.
you talk to some of the lobstermen out there, they're observing stuff every day that we don't, even though we're on the water all the time. Exactly.
Okay.
It's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Did you get Peter behind you?
I did, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had, keep going, it'll come back to me.
So do you wanna say?
Yes,
Yeah.
yacht club, saltwater club.
So I just wanted to thank Save the Harbor, Save the Bay for hosting the meeting here, because we always love visitors. But also I wanted to wait to the end with the last thing everyone thought of here, going out of here, but the illumination, which Maureen described, is almost completely sponsored by you
Oh, wow.
folks, as far as the cost goes. Plus, we use it as a fundraiser, other people help us out. But if anybody hasn't been to it before, as Bob said and Maureen said, it's spectacular. And it means a lot to everybody in the town, and we get a lot of visitors from out of town as well. So it's just, the place is completely packed. You know, conceptually, the way it feels is kind of like fireworks, you know, just a big nighttime event, so fantastic.
It'll last long.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have the date?
The 20th, July 20th. So we thank you folks for the support, it's fantastic. And the other thing is, you know, we have got a ton of programs. I didn't want to hijack the meeting with anything, but I will hijack with one. So we have a summer Maritime Explorers program for kids 12 to 16. And it really touches on all the stuff we've talked about tonight. Each for 7 weeks, and 1 week is on the marine environment. And we do salinity testing, water depth, bottom conditions, all sorts of things. And we do it from a rowboat, so when I'm using motor. So they learn to row, they learn about the ocean, they learn about weather. And every week, the 7 weeks, and every week is a little bit different thing. So that's the illumination.
We've got that in our office.
So we would like to collaborate with anybody helping, that wants to help us on marketing that a little bit, getting some kids out there. And I think if there's some programming things we can talk about, it'd be great too. So those are the two things I want to leave you with, is the illumination and the summer Maritime Explorers.
Summer adventure.
That's somebody else's program.
Oh.
Just kidding. The summer adventure program is kids 5 to 11, and that's actually going pretty strong over the many years. It's really a fantastic program. But the summer explorers program is a follow-on 12 to 16. And last year was our first year, went really, really well, but we want to get some more inertia going on it. So yeah, summer adventure is a fantastic program.
Postgraduate.
There you go, that's what it is. But since Phil's the maritime director, you should be focused on the explorers. That Maureen
Needed starting point that they can graduate to the new program.
Yeah, I agree on this. All right, but thank you again, everybody.
Thank you all.